Today we're going to look at the most depressing universe in Marvel, Marvel Ruins. So we start off with this reporter, Phil Sheldon. Now his goal is to find out what happened to the superheroes. He thinks that the superheroes should be some form of hope to look up to instead of what they had turned out to in this comic. See, in this universe, the Avengers were formed, and it started with Tony Stark and Hank Pym, but Tony's drinking problem honestly took over, and he was never the same. It starts when Tony Stark actually was intoxicated in his armor, and he hurt a lot of innocent people, and I'm using hurt in a nice way. And after this point, the government called it enough, and they locked up many Avengers, or they finished them off right there. And when we look at what happened to Captain America, he actually got super soldier serum, and instead of just getting the powers, he also had a need to eat human flesh, where he was viciously pursuing that. So he was frozen, but they're actually actively trying to find a way to destroy him completely while he's frozen in the ice. And basically through this, they're showing various ways of being off. But one interesting thing for me was how they showed the aliens, what they did to them. They basically put the Kree in like concentration camps and other things like scrolls, and they were just slowly dying from radiation. And at this point, I just realized like this is the most pessimistic sort of view that can even come in any sort of comic book. Like the Kree getting nuked, like that's such a reach, and honestly, they're kind of overstating the power of the government. Marvel basically comes to explain a story about why they lost, and honestly, he has cancer and he is currently feeling that radiation effect on him from the nuclear bombs. Now, Silver Surfer's death never really made as much sense to me. Basically, he became a cosmic being and wasn't used to not breathing, and in some sort of way, he tried to claw his lungs out himself and just passed away in space, which is very confusing to me, but he really died of shock. Even with the power of cosmic, you're not immune to shock in this universe. Then we come back to Marvel, and he's basically explaining that they're at the brink of death and that in about 30 more years, there won't be anyone in the concentration camp. And then we see that Professor X is actually the president. He's very reclusive and honestly overall weird guy. Then we cut to Sheldon about to interview Nick Fury, and he honestly gets beat up and almost gets, shot. But Sheldon got that speed and he dodged it. And then basically he gets accosted by Jean Grey, who was a prostitute in this sort of reality. Jean Grey, being a $20 thought, comes to Nick Fury. Nick Fury actually ends her, and he ends himself because he was involved with the Avengers and he didn't want to get caught up. Then we cut to scene Galactus, found in space dead, which makes no sense, honestly, and there's no explanation for it. And we just get this consistent theme of these heroes succumbing to their battles. We see Bruce Banner, he actually saves Rick Jones, but Rick Jones ends up becoming an addict, and Hulk has probably the worst outcome, probably the most disgusting outcome, and I hate to see it as he's my favorite character. But he becomes a big blob of cancerous tumors, and he passes away right then and there. And just the imagery of Hulk is quite insane. Like, who even thinks of this? But honestly, this is a more realistic than someone actually becoming the Hulk. In the manifestation of rage, he becomes big old giant cancer tumor. And Rick Jones just becomes an abuser and is honestly, alcoholic, dying from cancer. The Punisher is just randomly dead here as well. This is literally just issue 1 of 2 issues. And the next one honestly has even more interesting sort of worst case scenarios. And it's honestly something that I might cover in part 2, another video. And it's very depressing, honestly, but hey, sometimes we like to switch it up with these insane sort of comics that you really don't hear about that much.